Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast, the world's #1 podcast for raw vegans and the frugivore, fruitarian type of lifestyle. If you want to stay in touch with us, you can go to fruitfest.co.uk to subscribe to our newsletter and get updates about future podcasts and other things that we're doing. Today, our guest is um, the main, probably the most important promoter of the frugivore, raw vegan lifestyle, hygienic lifestyle in Brazil. His name is Eduardo Corassa. He's a YouTuber with more than 160,000 followers, and he has over, I think you said four, but I see here it says three full-length documentaries published on your channel about fasting, one that has about 1 million views, and a couple other documentaries. Fantastic. And you've lived on exclusively raw diet for 14 years. And for 12 years, you've been coordinating Saúde Frugal, teaching how to get healthy by living healthily using a whole raw diet based on the frugivorous diet, as well as other health principles. And as I've said, you're one of the main promoters of this lifestyle in Brazil. So you're reaching a huge audience out there. And I met Eduardo at the Woodstock Fruit Festival a couple of years ago and enjoyed his company a lot. So I really wanted to get a chance to interview him because I know he's making such an impact and he's got some great information for us. So thank you for giving us your time today, Eduardo.
First of all, thanks for the introduction. I expect to live up to the hype. Thanks for enjoying my company in Fruitstock Festival. I remember you two over there. I remember we talked. And yeah, the website information, I don't update monthly. So we have already 175,000 on YouTube. I published a new documentary about vegan athletes, So, but it's almost as you describe it. And thanks. Yeah, I was the first frugivore probably in Brazil, hygienist, right? 14 years ago, 14 years and a half when I first found out about raw foods, and I felt like, no, this living food style, it makes too much food. It doesn't, olive oil, we're talking about natural foods. Olive oil is not natural. It didn't make sense to me. So I started searching again. I started eating a lot of fruit because it was the most pleasurable thing to do and the most sound natural. And then I started losing a lot of weight because I used to lift weights a lot and exercise. So I started to lose a lot of weight, and I knew I was in the right path, but I felt like I needed more information. I went to the internet again and started searching, and then I found Doug's website and an interview with him, and I felt like, yeah, this old guy, he knows what he's talking about. And then it was history. I spent like 2 years of my life studying his work and Dr. Albert Shelton's work. And the first in the first few seconds I read about raw foods, I knew I was going to be a raw fooder for life, right? So since then I have been a frugivore, but I fasted for 24 days after 6 months of starting the diet. And then I realized that nobody was going to do this, right, in Brazil or things like that. So I felt like I have to take this message to the world, to Brazil at least. And then I have been doing everything I can to spread the word out here. So I wrote 7 books. I created a YouTube channel. I went to university to get a diploma of nutrition. Here the university goes for 4 to 5 years. It's different from US, I think, maybe from UK as well. I don't know how it is there. And I have been dedicated to, not just finding the right information for me so I can have the best health as possible, but to actually take this to people because they just, they don't realize that they are as Shelton used to say, they are the architect of their own misery.
Amazing.
So
And yeah.
that's, sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to say something I like to figure out is, were you brought up on an alternative lifestyle, or what did your upbringing look like in terms of your diet, your lifestyle, other things? Were you focused on health at all?
Back there, like,
Yeah, yeah. From a young age, were you encouraged in that direction?
during, I got it. Actually, no. Actually, I was a really sick child, but I used to play a lot of video games. I was really good with video games. So from 17 years old to 22, I was one of the best Counter-Strike professional players in the world, traveling around the world to compete. We were actually the number 5 or 4 in teams in the world, like top 4 or top 5, playing in in Dallas, in France, and in Sweden. We went to
Were
all
these
over the
like
world.
tournaments you went to?
Yeah. Tournaments in around the world, like Korea. We call WCG. Dallas was CPL, Cyber Athlete Professional League, and so we were paid to play Counter Strike.
Oh
So
wow.
I had, yeah, I had to. I went to through terrible eating habits to the worst eating habits as possible, And I used to smoke, drink, and then I got like obese, and my gaming went down. So I wasn't focused on health, actually. I was focusing on how I maintain my work, how I maintain my top-notch performance.
Mhm.
So I started going to a lot of doctors because I felt like so much back pains and issues. And then I felt like, they don't know what they're talking about. They just want to do surgeries and drugs. And that doesn't sound right. And I started looking for it, and then I found raw food. So I wasn't like the athlete or the healthy guy or anything like that. I was just curious. I never settled down for anything less than, what's the right thing to do. I always question things a lot. So when I uh, when I started looking for diet and solutions for my problems, I just thought like, what is the best diet and lifestyle so I can have it, so I can have the best performance in my game, because I started connecting performance in the game with my health. People
When
usually don't.
when did you make
It's
that
like an
discovery?
athlete.
When did you make that connection between performance and health? Was that when you started to gain weight and stuff and went to the doctor? Did anyone tell you, or was it just you worked it out yourself?
Actually, from 14 to 17, I used to do kickboxing. I got lean, I got fit, and I didn't eat a lot of junk food. I was just rice and beans and meat at home, a more healthy lifestyle. So when I started playing Counter-Strike professionally, I was really, really good. But as soon as we started like getting really good payment, we started like traveling all around the world. I started like smoking, drinking, because everybody do it, right? So you think it's normal, and you have money, so why not do it? So I noticed the change from when I was lean and fit and eating healthy food at home to start drinking, smoking, and gaining weight. I noticed the change, but and then we had a Swedish coach that he was an ex uh, hockey player. He was a really top notch hockey player before going to Counter Strike. So he made the connection more evident to me in my mind when he talked about diet and the importance. His concept of diet was eating a chocolate bar before a tournament to getting energy. He
Sure.
didn't know nutrition, but he knew the connection because he was an athlete, a professional athlete before Counter Strike. So I was like, this makes so much sense, and I started looking, and changing my healthy habits, my lifestyle habits. Like I started exercising again. I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking. I started eating like lean meats and things like that to get better performance at the game. So I started like feeling a lot better, and I made all the connections. And then, when I found frugivorism through Dagran, I was like, this is it. I'm sold for life.
How did you actually find raw foods in the first place? What made you search for that?
I actually didn't found raw foods. I was looking for things, and I saw I actually never met a vegetarian in my life before, like before 22 years old. I knew what a vegetarian is, but I never got to know a person like, I'm a vegetarian. Nice to meet you, or something like that. No, I don't eat meat. So I read about vegetarianism in a magazine. And then after a few days searching on the internet about diets and things like that, I saw Demi's Moore raw food diet. And I was like, raw foods? What is this? Like, why do people eat? And I typed raw foods in English in Google, and I was like, wow. Like, people, I cure cancer, I work better, I think better, I do everything better. And I was like, I got the insight like in the same moment, and I started living with my parents again. And I ran down to the kitchen, and I was like, don't cook for me. I'm not going to eat cooked food, never again. And people was like, what? You're crazy. And then like in a few weeks afterwards, I was like, when I found Doug, actually, right afterwards, I found Herbert Shelton because of him talking about him. And then I read about fasting, and I was like, I have to fast. And I did a 24-day water fast. So my family went crazy because I did it at home. But I knew it was the path. It made me who I am today. And it made me a better person in every single aspect, and made me allow me to help hundreds of thousands of people nowadays, so I'm really grateful for Doug's work. I always tell him that I'm probably even bore him with it, because I always thank him for that. And I have to thank Albert Shelton and everybody that's out there trying to.
What was it you came across at the time when you were starting out 14 years ago? I'm not even sure if the 80-10-10 book was published yet. Maybe it just was, but was it his forum that you were on, or was it the website, or what was it you actually discovered?
Actually, I found Demi's Moore raw food in globo.com. It's like a network television here in Brazil. And then I found about raw foods, and I thought it was really different with these raw food websites, the usual living food diet. And then after 2 months, after I started like losing a lot of weight, I started looking again. I found an interview with Doug with like Andrew Wells, a debate about him and Andrew Wells about raw foods. And then I got into Doug's website, and his website was probably his link for Veg Source Forum.
Sure.
But the 80-10-10 book was just published, I think, 2 months before that or something like that. So it was right in like, about the same time the 80-10-10 diet was published. So when I got into Doug's website, I saw the book, I bought it. When I arrived at home, I was like devouring it. Like, I read the whole book in a day, and, I knew how to do it. I knew how to follow.
Why did the book make so much sense to you? What was it you liked about it?
I'm a science kind of guy, like everything that I do nowadays with my books, it's all science based. Like I have like one of the books, the latest one has like 850 scientific papers referenced. So the science get my attention more than anything else. And the results, I think a lot, although I was a fat, not athlete kid, I think a lot about it. I think a lot like an athlete. Like if you give me a reason, I know I will have benefits, I'm getting into it. And I saw Doug was fit, really intelligent, knowledgeable, on his veg source forum. And I was like, I want to be that guy when I have his age. And none of the other raw food leaders were like, made sense. I'm sorry, I don't want to cite names, code names, but like David Wolf, Gabriel Cousins. I respect everybody, but I don't respect the theory behind what people suggest. It goes against logic, it goes against science, because oils and fat and fat and fat, it doesn't sound, like, and it does, you can't show the science behind it, because even the vegan medical doctors, 80-10-10, like, if you read it, their research, even though most of them doesn't use the 80-10-10 ratio on their talks, if you read the research, they always use a macronutrient ratio really close to 80-10-10 or 80-10-10. Maybe they raise the protein a little bit and the fat a little bit, but it's always around that. So, that got my attention a lot, because Doug was talking about, anthropoid primates, and it's so obvious. It's ridiculous how the world can't see it, So that was the most attractive information for me. Doug talking about science,
Awesome, yeah. So from that point, was it relatively easy for you to change to that diet, or did you struggle for a while to make the change to the 80-10-10 style diet, or what was your experience?
I was a junk food kid, my first salad, a lettuce and tomato, was when I was 20 years old. I never have eaten a salad, tomatoes, lettuce salad. So when I did the change, I was almost 23 years old. So yeah, vegetables for me were like, if I put like a tomato close to my mouth, I had the sensation of puking. It was hard for me to eat vegetables. But I think after reading the 80-10-10, everything became a lot more easier. And to have the example, to know that people were doing, I knew that I could do as well. So it was good to find Doug's and veg source because of the example and because of the information. But I think the most hard aspect for me was that we are visionaries. All of us that understand this information are visionaries. I don't think it's different IQ. It's just that we can see further than usual people. So the hardest thing for me was actually the critics. People think you're mad, and they ostracize you. They look at you like you have leper. You're a leper, right?
Sure.
That like you have a infectious disease. But that was the hardest part, because the food part, yeah, eating vegetables is difficult. And back then there was no YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I couldn't see people preparing a recipe. I didn't know what a ripe fruit was. I always burned my tongue and my lips with pineapples for like a few months. I tried to eat pineapples, and I was like, damn, I didn't know the season. I didn't know ripeness. I didn't know anything, but I just knew I had to do it. And the caloric restriction that I ended, I didn't know how to eat as much, and I didn't have Doug's book. So I did somewhat caloric restriction unintentionally in the beginning. So I believe that also helps to calibrate the palates to enjoy more fruits and vegetables. and gives a neurological benefit, as we call BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is produced because of fasting or caloric restriction, that made me more, resilient mentally, more focused, so I could, all the the difficulties didn't mean a lot to me. When you are fasting, when you are doing caloric restriction and living healthy, you we know that you become more resistant to stress, even physically, but mentally as well. So we become stronger, so it was not that difficult for me to make the change, because as I went 100% on it, you get so many benefits that when you try to go back to cooked food, even for one meal or a bite or things like that, you feel the downsides. So I was like, no way.
Did you have did you have cravings for cooked food, and how did you deal with getting rid of that?
Yeah. I did, as long as I didn't eat enough, and when I was stressed and things like that. Nowadays, I know the science behind it. If I cause chrono disruption through eating late at night, if I cause sleep deprivation, if I don't sleep as much, if I have my cortisol levels high, a lot of things happen. So we have counteractive hormones. I don't know the name in English, actually, the name of the word. Leptin and ghrelin. It's like insulin and glucagon. When one goes up, the other goes down. So when you don't sleep as much, ghrelin, the hunger hormone, goes up. Mm-hmm. Leptin, the satiety hormone, goes down. So when we don't sleep as much, if I go to a nightclub, for example, back then I used to try to go at night, because after raw foods, I stopped losing. I lost the interest completely. So I didn't know back then, but cravings are always meant, it's always have physiological backgrounds. For example, there's a drop in basal cortisol at noon. So animals should take a siesta, a break in the middle of the day. So if I don't take a siesta, for example, I feel a lot more hunger in the afternoon than I should if I take a siesta. So I think there's a lot of physiological background to cravings that people aren't
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't know about it,
So a lot of people say as well that their cravings happen more in the evening, and you've heard of the Rottle 4 diet and things like that, where people find it easy to eat raw in the morning and maybe even for lunch, but later on in the evening they really struggle with cravings. Then is there hormonal reasons for that as well?
For sure. I haven't looked at the science yet, but you have to realize the chronobiology science is really getting attention right now, because chronobiology is as important as diet in my perspective. So people don't realize that after 6 p.m., there is no light in nature. As long as you see light, you want to eat. And if you eat late at night, you cause chrono disruption, that at the next morning, you wake up hungry, although you are not hungry. You just have a chemical hormone and biochemistry imbalance because of chrono disruption. So there's a lot of things that I can prove through science, and there's some things about natural hygiene that we get such a good neurofeedback that it's science, but it isn't yet proved.
By chronobiology, what does that mean really? Is that the clock of natural clock of the body and how you interact with that?
One of really cool things is that nature hygienists were visionaries. They knew things before science, and they always talked about eating with the sun, when the sun is up and when the sun is going down. And it's exactly nowadays when I feel hungry, around noon and around 4 to 5 p.m. I start feeling hungry again. If I'm sleeping good, if I'm balanced with lifestyle habits.
Mm-hmm.
So chrono means time in Greek. So the study of living time, as you will, the translation of chronobiology. So there's a biological clock in every cell organ of our body, but there's the master clock in the nucleus the suprachiasmatic nucleus in our brain. I have to translate and translate back again, you know. So there's the master clock tells the other clocks how to act. But even the pancreas has a time to secrete insulin. So when you eat late at night, it's like you are pre-diabetic without being pre-diabetic, because the secreting time for the insulin in the pancreas, it's not there anymore. You know, it's not supposed to secrete insulin after 6 p.m. So there's a lot of scientific data behind it. I could
Sure.
quote things, but it's quite really simple. If you don't, we have the Zeitgebers, the givers of time, as the word is in Germany, right? So lights and eating are the main Zeitgebers, the time givers. Oh, they calibrate our biological clocks and tell to the brain, to the body, what time the day is it, because you have the time for being active and eating, and you have the time for being inactive and repairing the structure, hormones, burning fat, and things like that. So even World Health Organization already tells that chrono disruption is actually in shift workers. It's one of the main reasons for their high incidence of chronic diseases.
Mm.
They suffer a lot more from cancer, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, just because of chrono disruption. And I think the frugivore movement should be more into hygiene nowadays than ever. Because, for example, even Fruitstock Festival, we were having during parties at night, you know, like 8 p.m. Nothing against that, but it goes against our biology, and it's even though frugivore is the way to go, we have to still respect other parts of our biology, not just diet.
It takes some real discipline. It takes some real discipline to go to bed when everyone else is having fun.
Yeah, I know. I was there. I know the science, but I wasn't going to miss during the fun. But we could do the party at noon instead of 7 p.m.
No, I like that. I like that. I love what you're saying. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, what is the natural rhythm of the body? How do we make sure that we're living in line with that? So I've been thinking about that, and I really like that you've researched that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm just trying to evolve hygiene as much as I can, you know, as every other pioneer did. Doug did, you know, Shelton did, Jennings back then did. Well, every generation is just, you know, bringing more data to science data to improve our
so
lifestyle.
let's talk about hygiene a little bit. I want to get back to your raw food journey a little bit, but hygiene is such an amazing topic, and you obviously said that you found Doug, and then you found Shelton, and I'd like to ask you about, for you, like, what is hygiene, and what are the main principles for you that you've learned from it?
I think hygiene is better described as the science of health. So we study the biological needs of the healthy organism, comprehending that if you produce health, disease is not natural. Disease is not going to happen. So, although as a nutritionist, I have to stick with the science, as a person with my empiric background, I don't believe in disease. I don't believe in a lot of things because it's my empirical vision, my empirical. Uh, but so hygiene is just the science of health. We just focus on health, focus on studying every detail of biological human being necessities.
Yeah.
If you go to science, Japanese researchers publishing on forest therapy, they show that if you go into a forest, you have lower depression, anxiety, better immune function by the name phytoncides, gases that plants secrete, so we can improve our natural killer cells. Better cardiovascular system functioning. If you go to aromatherapy, they show that neurocognitive benefits. So it's not just eating fruits and vegetables. It's about living into a natural environment. If I take the camera outside here, I moved to a smaller city. I have 200 fruit trees in my garden. I interact daily with the natural environment because I know the scientific benefits, and for sure, picking a ripe mango out of the tree is a lot better than and buying it, right? An organic ripe mango that you planted. So I think that is an important part of natural hygiene that people, we go into the diet, but we don't realize all the aspects that we are missing that is as important as the diet itself. For 8 years, I used plastic. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know the science behind it. And I wrote Veganism for parents and babies. And, there was so much info about heterotoxicity, about plastic and petrochemicals being heterotoxic and heavy metals, that they cause reproductive malfunctioning and malformations. And a lot as I learned through almost this 15 years of journey, and as a nutritionist, I study a lot. So chronobiology, chrononutrition, petrochemicals, even Wi-Fi, and a lot of other stuff. People are not aware of the importance of adequating the whole lifestyle, and that's what a hygienist does. When I attend my patients, I focus on understanding every detail of their daily lifestyle habits so I can tune them to the perfect, and at least I can guide them so they can tune in the long run. Details, for example, we talk a lot about food combining hygiene. For my own experience, I'm much more focused on chronobiology, on not seeing lights, electrical lights after 6 p.m. and getting to bed at tops 8 p.m. Then I'm worried about mixing bananas with, other citrus fruit. For sure, I'm not trashing food combining. I'm just saying that there are things more important to food combining than people, you get in raw foods and food combining is so important. Yeah, it is. It makes sense. It makes a difference, but it's not as different as exercising as much as we need, avoiding petrochemicals, there's more things to that, I think.
What would you recommend, by the way, of like Herbert Shelton's books or hygiene books generally? Which ones have you enjoyed the most?
You can go back into the hygiene literature. Like there's a lot of old hygienists like Troll, Tilden. There's even books on soil and health that you can, download in PDF. But Shelton is actually synthesized, and more modern, right? So it's better to get the modern hygiene than the old hygiene because every generation gets better and better. If you go to Doug's book, you get a lot better than Shelton. But Doug doesn't have a lot of Shelton was Doug and Shelton are genius, but Shelton wrote a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So we need more information. So I like Shelton because you get information about every kind of single topic because he wrote 40 bucks or something like that, right?
Sure.
So reading Shelton's work, there's so many good stuff that it's hard to tell. I like the myth of medicine because I like how Shelton used to talk about touchy topics, but the fasting book of Shelton, Natural Hygiene Principles of Fasting, I think is the blue book, really big about fasting that Shelton used to have. I don't remember the names of the books, but
the science and fine art of fasting, was it that one?
Yeah, the science and fine art of fasting, the science of nutrition and hygiene. It was a green book, and the red one. It was several books in a row with the same names, just a volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. I think those are the main, synthesized books. But every Shelton's book is like, a delight, I think.
Sure.
Although for sure it's not updated with the science. It's a lot more advanced than most of the science out there because he was a genius.
Amazing. Let's go back to your own raw food sort of journey. Like when you made that transition, what benefits did you experience? And did you experience any what people call detox symptoms along the way?
Yeah, for sure. For the first week, for second month, there's a lot of, there is detox, but there's also biological adaptations. For example, the microbiomes adapting to fiber rich diet. So in the first month, I remember having loose stools, and then it became normal again. So not all is just, detox. Some it's just biological adaptations, other are detox, other are actually retox. Because we're constantly using petrochemicals, sleeping late at night, and doing a lot of bad stuff to our bodies. So we think it's detox, but, so back then I didn't, you don't have the experience to differentiate. So you think everything's detox. But yeah, I had emotional detox in the first week. It was like something, I was more aware of my feelings, but it's like you want to cry. I don't know, it's strange. And actually your headaches, loose stools, I remember having like pimples, red pimples all over my body when I fasted my first fast. But it's mild. It's different from disease, from the usual disease. It's just mild, It's just like, something is happening, but it doesn't stop you from living as when you are an omnivore and you get a fever and, can't even function.
Sure. Do you take any supplements? What do you think about that?
Yes, that was actually my biggest mistake. as a hygienist, you don't want to take anything that is not natural. Taking B12 pills with sugar, you don't even know where the B12 came. You don't know the synthetic compounds that go with the B12 supplement. So for 12 years, I didn't have a B12 supplement. And in the beginning of that year, before going to Fruitstock Festival in 2019, I just felt sick in bed without being able to digest anything. That was actually my only and biggest mistake in raw foods, actually. Since I started this path, I made a little bit mistakes here and there, but B12 was actually the biggest mistake ever. It got me off the track for a few months, feeling really ill, because I went really low in B12, and because it was digestive issues instead of neurological issues, pernicious anemia, I couldn't digest anything. I couldn't even digest a watermelon after a while. So I started looking for answers. I started doing blood work, and I found the B12 issue, and then I connected. But it took a while to get back to normal levels and to get the symptoms away. So yes, nowadays I supplement B12 once in a while. But yeah, that's the issue with veganism. I really believe we are raw fooders. We are raw fooders. I'm pretty sure of that. But maybe we weren't vegans around 80 millions of years in nature, or maybe our B12 came from insects in the fruits that were visible to us, like the guava and the larva over there. I don't know, but I think the main issue is long-term veganism. We have to find every detail to understand how to not make to not generate problems and to happen like Raw Vanna and T Sheaf and guys like that have digestive issues, went back to eating a lot of cooked food and animal protein and things like that. So that is a touchy topic, because vegans don't want to imagine that there is maybe there's more nutrients than B12 to pay attention to in the long run.
What does your lifestyle look like right now in terms of your diet? How do you eat on a daily basis?
Now is actually probably my favorite time in the year, because there's persimmons. So I eat like around noon. I would probably have like 10 persimmons, a few other fruits. But it's actually around 2 kilos to 3 kilos in a meal. I probably eat some nuts, maybe some vegetables, what's in the fridge. And then I take I exercise around 11 a.m. and then I break my fast around noon, something like that, after 1 hour exercise at least. And I drink a few coconuts in the beginning of the day. And then in the afternoon, like 5 p.m., I have my dinner, like a lot of vegetables, a little bit of fruits, and some nuts and or avocado, etc. And that's pretty much it. But nowadays I'm more open, to not be as strict as I was back then. I was like fruits and vegetables, fruits and nowadays I eat a lot of mushrooms if I'm able to. I have some peas, I'm much more flexible in that sense. If there's some sprouted lentils, I can throw a little bit in the salad. I'm not just, I use some algae here and there to try to get some iodine. I still have to understand what happened about B12 deficiency. That was not just B12. I think maybe I'm trying some flax seeds with mashed bananas. So, make the flaxseed flour and throw on top of bananas. So I get some omega-3s. I'm trying to understand what can goes wrong besides B12 in a long-term vegan diet. Although I'm a raw vegan, you understand what I mean.
You obviously work with a lot of people that are making this transition to this diet. What are the kind of common mistakes you see people make outside of B12 as you're talking about? What are the other things you see people getting wrong?
It's quite simple. The main mistake is that they don't study. They don't apply, they don't persist in the things. They make a mistake and they, whatever. To make things perfect in an imperfect world, we don't live in nature anymore. So we have to understand how to make it happen and how it does happen in nature. So this chronobiology stuff, for example, was a thing that I knew it, but without the scientific data, I was always, not doing really correctly until 2 years ago when I stopped really. I don't have dinner anymore. If it's after 5:30, after 6 p.m., I just don't eat. I just turn off the lights and go to bed. So I think that is one of the main mistakes people have it because it's so bad for their lifestyle, for their health, and influences their diet in the day afterward, because you have higher cortisol, you have lower leptin, you have higher ghrelin. So you're going to eat more, and you're probably going to eat wrong foods because of this chrono disruption. That doesn't even have to do with, it's a craving, but it's caused by not psychological factors, but physiological factors. So I think the main mistakes would be thinking that B12, it's not a matter. You're not going to have any kind of deficiency if you are raw vegan. Not eating enough. Not understanding the basics, because when I talk to my patients, not all of them are motivated to go raw or things like that. So I teach them conservative cooking, steaming things, like hygienists used to say conservative cooking. I teach them how to get as close as possible to their goal, or to health, because people usually are eating fruits and vegetables, have a pitfall, and then go back to industrialized food, and then go back to raw foods, and at least go back to steamed broccoli instead of falling all the way to whatever you were adapted to. So that are the main pitfalls, I think.
Sure. So let's get back to kind of your story as well. So you were a professional video game player, competitive. You changed your diet, you got healthier. When did you start making the change towards promoting this, helping other people, the studying? Did you just give up the game playing overnight, or how did this all happen?
When I started the raw food diet, I was already not being able to play professionally anymore because I was having so much back pain, and I wasn't playing as good as I should back then. So I was really motivated to teach. I was really motivated to make the difference my whole life. I was studying a lot for my health, but I was seeing people, struggling with such simple things. That was like, what? They cannot see that, you don't need surgery. You need lifestyle habits. I saw the raw food world in Brazil so, so confused. And I was like, and I saw everybody. And I was like, what? People are dying because of not knowing things. So after my first fast, I was decided I did a 24-day water fast and I cried in the end. Like it was my body crying, not myself. It was like I was a host and my body was like, like a spirit and a body. It was two different things. And I swear to myself that I wasn't going to allow people to go through the same things I did. Went through in my childhood, the sick days, being overweight, not everything. So I swear to myself, like I'm going to get this message to the whole world as many people as I can. And it's what I keep focusing nowadays. Nowadays, I want to get famous in Brazil, not because I care about fame or money, but because fame and money allows you to reach millions of people. So that's my goal now. I just focusing on taking this more to the scientific level so people are respected and want to follow it. And the revolution keeps growing and growing because you know so I decided after 6 months of being the diet that I was going to do this for life, as a job.
You want to talk about some of your studies and your qualifications? I know you're a doctor. Doctor, you have the title. So what have you studied and where have you kind of learned and everything?
Let's go. Uh, that's the thing. The DR, not doctor, when you get a nutrition diploma, it's like a medicine diploma for the title. Because a lot of doctors, for example, in Brazil, they're in America or in UK, you guys probably use MD, right? Here we don't have the medical doctor, the MD sign. We use DR behind the name. So MDs use DR because of it's how they are called, right? So you know that they're a medical doctor because there's no MD. So the nutrition council in Brazil allows nutritionists to use as medical doctors the DR, even though you doesn't have a doctorate. But I love Shelton when he used to say, doctor from Latin means teacher.
Right.
So if you are a doctor, you are actually a teacher, whatever you teach. So I didn't do yet any postdoctorate or masters or I don't know the names in English to Brazil, maybe I'm wrong. But I did any courses after nutrition university, because I'm so much focused on getting the information out to the public that it doesn't allow you to have time to do a master's, because you do a master's and I will prove that AGEs, advanced glycation end products, are toxic, blah 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 blah. I know a lot about AGEs, but who who the hell in the world wants to know about AGEs? People want to know that how to not get sick. They don't want the information, they want the results. So
how did you find your nutrition studies? I mean, I'm guessing a lot of it wasn't quite in line with what you were learning from hygiene and from raw foods.
you just realize I'm going to get my diploma and then help people out, because there's some things that you can learn: physiology, biochemistry, anatomy, immunology. You can learn a few things in college, but there's a lot of other stuff that I just throw away. But I needed a diploma so I can get respected, and I can attend patients and make difference in people's lives. So there's stuff that you can learn in university that's not outdated, but there's for sure a lot of outdated stuff. But you can actually study the outdated stuff so you can know better your own stuff. When people talk about high biological value of animal protein, better, so
Sure.
it's the path. A man gotta do what a man gotta do, right?
Let's talk about Brazil a little bit. In the UK, if you go to a Brazilian restaurant, they bring out a big spike. It's got lots of red meat on it. This is Brazilian food for some reason. And what's it like there in terms of the raw food movement, vegan movement? What's happening in Brazil? How's it going over there?
It's growing. It's growing. For sure it's growing. Internet, it makes a lot easier for information to get out there. So humans are not stupid. They're just making themselves dumb because of cooked food and their unnatural lifestyle. So that causes neurodegeneration. But we focus on doing the best as we can, becoming the best as we can. So as much more people are learning about, what is right and what is wrong, things are changing. So when I started, I didn't, there were no vegans walking out, around. I didn't have anywhere to go, to socialize. But nowadays, the movement's a lot bigger and it's going to grow bigger and bigger. I hope we don't destroy the planet before, everybody realizing what's the right path to go.
Mm. And Brazil was kind of criticized for the coronavirus thing. It seemed like the president didn't believe it was happening or something. I don't really know the full story. What was your perspective of what was happening there?
My own perspective is that people don't focus on what is right. They want, bash. They want to talk about politics as being the problem for coronavirus. The problem is their lifestyle. It's that they drink, they eat, and be merry. And as Shelton used to say, not pay the fiddler. It's just that if they focus on the right stuff, because in America, in United, everywhere, the political system is not right. If we continue with capitalism, it will never be right because human beings weren't meant to be governed by anybody. We were meant to be in a tribe of 100 people, everybody making decisions. That's not natural. So to blame the president for anything, for sure, I'm not being in favor of him. He's he's in favor of petrochemicals, agrotoxic chemicals, being thrown in the food. A lot of what he does is wrong. But if the public understand that if they live healthy, if they do the right choices, there wouldn't be such a pandemic. And I don't know if you read the Lancet, a research suggesting it's not a pandemic, but it's a syndemic. It's a synergy of infectious disease with health crisis. I mean, obesity, all the other diseases are coming together in synergy with the coronavirus to create such a bigger problem. So people are worrying about coronavirus, the plastic that we're throwing in the ocean, that we're throwing in ourselves, in our own blood. It's way worse because now people are dying of coronavirus. In a few decades, human beings will have so much damage to our reproductive organs that we will not probably be able to reproduce. And the plastic is only growing everywhere, even in our bloods, as BPA and other petrochemicals that are lixiviated to our system. So they find microplastic in the placenta.
Mm.
So babies, the transgenerational epigenetic changes that occur because of our use of petrochemicals, it's way worse than any pandemic. Because if human beings will not be able to reproduce, they will not be able to have a next generation. So I understand the deaths now and I feel for it.
Mm.
But we have a lot of data that if we did live healthy, coronavirus wouldn't be just another flu, you know?
Sure. Another question I wanted to ask you about, you were good friends with Rainey and Anna, I believe, who also live in Brazil. Were
Yeah,
you
I love
featured? Did they interview you for the film, and what was your experience with that?
I love Anna and Rainey. They're the best couple, big frugivore couple out there. I love them. And yeah, they interviewed me last year, and it was great. I really hope I can come out soon, and we touch people's heart. I'm really fan of Rainey's work, also as editing. And it was great to give the interview. I hope I can contribute with all my, because I'm constantly learning things that I think a lot of people in the frugivore movement should be aware about, like chronobiology, the amount of exercise that we should get. For example, we have research published by Lauren Cordange suggesting that we should be getting around 2 hours and a half of exercise per day, although I can't suggest that. We have to, try to, get out in nature, understand the other scientific aspects, because frugivore movement already understand about the importance of eating fruits and vegetables for sure. So
Sure. And you were saying, do you grow your own fruit? Did you say you've got a garden yourself?
yeah, I grow a lot. I see if we can.
Oh wow.
Big.
Oh
My
nice.
first coconut tree giving coconuts there. I grow a lot, but the trees were only planted for like 4 years ago. So it takes a while for them to produce big amount of fruits to, sustain a frugivore. So here there are a lot of plantations close to here. So persimmons, mangoes, bananas, oranges, tangerines, a lot of stuff I get organic, jackfruits, and I pay like 2.40 per kilo of persimmon. For more than 2 pounds of persimmon, I pay like 40 cents of a dollar.
Nice, yeah.
So it's really, really cheap. So
What part of
just
what part of Brazil do you live?
Rio, close to Rio de Janeiro. I used to live in Rio, but I changed to here so I could, I have the beach right in front of me. The surf world tournament happens in here.
Oh,
So
nice.
I think in making more money and buying lands around me so I can actually make some bioconstructed houses and call more frugivores to live around.
Very
That's
cool.
one of the plans.
So what are your words of advice for people that are beginning on this journey, on this path to better health? How would you encourage them?
How much is your life worth for you? That's it. How much your health is worth for you? How much the health of the planet, of your parents, of your family, what is the influence? What's the influence you want to be in the world? I don't want, if you are obese, if you have one obese friend, you have the probability of 50% higher of becoming obese as well.
Wow.
So you influence other people around you just by who you are. So I want to be my best for the planet. I don't see as raw foods only for health. I see raw foods for ethics, because human beings are crashing the planet. Because as we started cooking, our biochemistry changed. Because we start eating things that were not in our own best interests. So it changes our biochemistry. It causes changes in brain chemistry. So we started like trashing everything without even realizing that we are part of the planet. So raw foods is ethics, first of all, because if we want sustainability, if we don't want to kill everything and kill ourselves in the process, we need to understand that whenever we start cooking and eating things out of our own biology, we will continue to trash the planet.
Thank you very much for that awesome advice. Well, thank you everyone for listening today to the Love Fruit podcast, and feel free to share this with others and comment or below if you're watching on YouTube, and give us some feedback. And you can follow us once again at fruitfest.co.uk for some more information there. Eduardo, before we finish, how do you help people? What do you do? How can people find out more about you?
Dr. Corassa, DrCorassa. That's my Instagram. We're reaching around 100,000 subscribers. On YouTube, there's 2 YouTube channels. Dr. Corassa, the same. Saúde Frugal, as it's written here. It's frugal health in Portuguese. And through my WhatsApp and email that are actually in YouTube, my website, saudefrugal.com.br, and through my Saúde Frugal, what's the name again? Arroba, it's gmail.com. Saúde Frugal.
Yeah, the @ symbol.
Yeah, I forgot the name of gmail.com. You have all my contacts over there. So I have like 7 books published, all in Portuguese, but I think it's really good literature for learning. I have culinary courses that, although I agree 100% with Doug about like maintaining all the diet aspects, because I'm trying to reach mainstream, I pervaded a little bit more. I throw a little bit salt, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of more fat, because I did these culinary courses because I want to reach, like mainstream, and they are not going to understand if you don't, throw a little bit of salt in their vegetables, because, they don't have the palate for it. They don't have the neuroadaptation for it. So culinary courses, retreats here with me, my place. It's like a small farm. I attend patients as a nutritionist, and the books and all the free material with like ebooks, website, Instagram, and YouTube.
Do you have people in Portugal that follow you as well, because the language is the same?
We send a lot of books to Portugal always, and we have a lot of people commenting from Portugal, Instagram, and YouTube. There's a lot, and even other African countries that speaks Portuguese.
Oh yeah.
I don't know exactly what African countries speak Portuguese, but there are a few.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Dr. Eduardo Carossa, and I encourage everyone to go and check him out, and especially those who have friends in Brazil and who speak Portuguese, who want to get those books and get some of those books sent to your friends and family. I think that'll really help them. And check him out on Instagram, YouTube, And yeah, I hope to see you again soon, maybe sometime, maybe in Brazil or somewhere else. And but thanks everyone for watching and listening. We'll see you in the next episode of the Love Fruit podcast. Thank you and goodbye.